Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the recruiting capsules for the 2025 signing class for Ohio State. This is the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. Again, signing day special for class of 2025. 10, 12-minute recruiting capsules on all players who sign with the Buckeyes today or in any other interesting action that may occur. So stick here with us throughout the day as we post these. We'll try and post them pretty close to signing, but we also need to let some of these breathe. So we're going to stagger some of them out, but just stick with us throughout the day. We will have capsule on every player who signs with Ohio State and any other surprises that may occur. So keep it locked in here at BuckeyeHuddle.com throughout the day. We've talked, we're talking a lot about the linebackers today because it's such a great linebacker class for Ohio State. And it's a position of need. If you look at kind of how the roster is built right now, it's not to say there's no good young players on the roster at the position, but it's a little light on numbers of quality guys with 2-3 years left. A lot of veterans on the roster. So this was a big class for James Laurinaitis. And again, I thought he hit a home run. We're going to talk about Riley Pettijohn in this episode. Kevin, we saw Riley on Southern Swing, and we just weren't. I don't know. He was a tough read. This was a very close battle between, I believe, Ohio State and Texas. I believe Texas was the biggest threat to Ohio State throughout this. And I think we kind of left that he said some things that were good for Texas. He said some things that were good for Ohio State. How do we read this one? And ultimately, he did commit to Ohio State over the summer. Huge get. And then, of course, the questions became, well, is he going to stick? Or is Texas going to flip him? And, there was certainly plenty of buzz out there from people who felt Texas might flip him. I don't know that it ever got particularly close. It felt to me like, for the most part, Ohio State did a pretty good job securing that one. But there were some moments maybe that got a little interesting, but they've signed him now. He's in. Just your thoughts on this pickup and just holding on to him, I guess, for that long period of time in a world where just everyone seems to be flipping or wavering.
Yeah, we got down there and we had dinner with a friend of ours who covers state of Texas recruiting. And he's like, I don't know. I think maybe Texas has the edge, which again goes to show that Riley did a good job of keeping things under wrap. His true feelings were kind of his own. And some kids want to put everything out there and some kids don't really want to put anything out there. And I would say Riley was closer to the latter than the prior. I mean, he was not, completely buttoned up and didn't say anything. It just was that he didn't tip his hand. So, credit to Ohio State for being able to keep that one locked in. But, I think that the way he went through the process was the right way to make sure that all the boxes were checked and, barring major changes structurally at any program that he may have committed to, I don't think that he was going to be moved off of his commitment. And, to Ohio State's good fortune, that was the case for them. And, that you're getting a tremendous back in Riley Pettijohn. If you go to McKinney High School, their colors are very similar to the team up north. And while they don't have the wing helmets, they still look a little too much like the team up north. So I'm sure Ohio State fans will be looking forward to seeing him in scarlet and gray instead of those other colors. But tremendous player. Once again, Ohio State going into Texas and getting a top kid.
Yeah, and some similarities here with Devin Sanchez in terms of, we've talked about, and that'll be on the Devin Sanchez capsule, which you guys can check out here as well at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. But some similarities there, I think, in terms of the family structure. Very bought in family on Ohio State, very involved family in terms of getting Riley up to Columbus several times and just kind of endearing themselves and trying to get themselves involved with the Ohio State program as well. And not just, leaving it up to their 17, 18-year-old kid to figure out his own way. So, again, very strong family structure there, very strong family structure with the Sanchez family, which I think very much helped Ohio State hold on to those Texas guys in a year where, again, these are two phenomenal talents and talents that, those Texas schools desperately wanted to keep local. And so, again, I credit just the family's involvement in both of those recruiting processes and just making sure their kids were making the right decision and just being very involved and engaged with the coaching staffs and everything else. I think that was a huge help for Ohio State in keeping Riley as well. Let's go to the tape. He's a stud. I mean, he's a guy who, you're going to hear this probably about TJ Alford as well, but he's a guy that I think is going to be possibly difficult to keep off the field. Early at Ohio State, whether it's special teams, whether it's as a depth player, he's a guy who I think can play any of the linebacker positions at Ohio State. I think he, again, tremendous in space. He can run. He can get sideline to sideline. He's got great instincts. Physically, he's a physically mature kid. I think he's a guy, everyone's got a little bit of adjustment to make in the strength and conditioning program, but I think he's a guy who will kind of look the part very early in his career. He's not a guy who needs a ton of work on his body at this point, much like, again, TJ Alford. And just, again, the ability to do multiple things, the ability to fill, the ability to shoot gaps, the ability to blitz, the ability to run and cover. All these things are things he already does very well. And so for me, it's just a matter of how quickly can he pick up the defense and get adjusted to the speed of the college game, because all the physical tools, all the mental tools are there to be an outstanding linebacker at Ohio State. And once again, I have to credit James Laurinaitis, who needed to put together a really good linebacker class this year, and sure enough has done that with an absolute dynamite linebacker class. This could be the best linebacker class in the country in this cycle. I think it's definitely one of the strengths of Ohio State's 2025 class. I think they're getting 3 guys who will eventually be starters at Ohio State, but I think they've got at least 2 guys here who could be early contributors at Ohio State and give them some good depth almost day one, if not, by toward the end of their freshman year. So this is going to be a fun group to follow the next few years as we sort of watch their development and kind of James Laurinaitis' first true recruiting class as the linebackers coach. So A+ effort here from James Laurinaitis on this group, and a couple of really exciting players to watch. Kevin, again, how do you keep guys like him and Alford off the field? They look like they're going to be ready to help.
It's a good problem to have with having guys like this that are pushing their way on the field because they're so good rather than there's so few. If it were a case of there was just nobody in the linebacker room and you were having to thrust guys into the limelight because of a lack of numbers, not always a good thing. But these guys are going to be pushing, and you look, and it's hard to believe how quickly the college cycle runs. 3 years and you can go. Arvell Reese is going to be going into that contract year. It feels like just yesterday that he was committing to Ohio State, reopening the Glenville pipeline after it had run dry for quite a few years. So, you're going to still have guys like Peyton Pierce and Garrett Stover and some other guys who are going to be vying for positions as well. But these guys are going to come in, and especially guys who come in for the spring practice and everything else. And Ohio State the roster is going to look very different. It's going to look very different in 25 than it's going to look here in 24, where we're at right now. And you just embrace it. You embrace it, and if these guys are good enough to get out there, then so be it. And you go with it. You don't look for any reasons not to put them out there, and I'm not saying anybody would, but if they come in and they are the best options, we're talking about the 3 linebackers that are supposed to sign in this class, then you go with any combination of them as it necessitates.
And I think another theme with these linebackers are, look where you got them from. Ohio, Florida, Texas. These are the areas you have to recruit well. And I think, again, you repair. I think Eli Lee can serve as kind of a repair to the relationships between Ohio State and Hoban after some kind of rough situations there in the past. You have TJ Alford in Florida, which is obviously a very important state for Ohio State. Don't want to lose another guy late from Florida. And then you've got Riley Pettijohn. Again, Texas, some of Ohio State's best teams have been fueled by Texas players over the last 25 years. You go back to David Boston, you go into Jeff Okuda and that whole crew and Baron Browning and just that J.K. Dobbins. Some of Ohio State's best teams have been fueled by Texas players. And so you're connecting in areas that you need to hit home runs in, but that are also areas talking about Texas and Florida specifically, where it's always a dogfight and it's always an area of like, yeah, you got the early commitment, but are you going to be able to hold on to them? So these are just huge signings for me at this position. You needed to have a good class here. You did, but you also needed to kind of reassure or, reestablish those Florida, Texas connections that have been so successful for you over the years. And no late flips. You get these guys all locked in and ready to go, and they've got opportunities to play early. So I think this was a very important position group. I know everyone gets caught up in like the flashy position groups, but this was really, really important for me as I looked at Ohio State's 2025 class to put something together like this.
No, I agree. I mean, you have to sit there and you have to address needs. I mean, it's really easy to sit there and say, well, you just go out and you find who the 35 5-stars are and you offer all of them and you take as many of them as you can. Well, that's all well and good if you're trying to win a recruiting national title, but if you're trying to win a real national title, you have to address needs. And there certainly was the need at linebacker. I think that there were a lot of things in terms of on the defensive side of the ball where Ohio State needs to replenish. And linebacker probably first and foremost is on that list. So it's been a minute since Ohio State has brought in like a Raekwon McMillan type of prospect, but we're kind of getting there at this point. I mean, McMillan had the 5th star, but both Pettijohn and Alford, to their own degrees are very much in that top percent, that top half of the top percent of high school players. And Ohio State is fortunate to have them. And to echo what you said, very well may be the number 1 linebacker class in the country.
So that'll do it for this one. We appreciate everyone who's been watching and listening to these. We'll have them throughout signing day on all the players that Ohio State signs. So check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Get $4.99 for your first month. Take you through all the signing day activity. I'll take you through the next couple of weeks of winter practices leading up to the playoffs. First 12-team playoff ever. This will take you through the first 2 rounds of that playoff. So a great time to join at BuckeyeHuddle.com if you're not over there already. In the meantime, keep it locked in here at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle for more of these as we go through every player that the Buckeyes signed today and another very highly ranked recruiting class for Ohio State. So again, thank you everyone to watching and listening. We will see you very soon.